The rain fell steadily on the empty gas station parking lot as 35-year-old Daniel Hayes pulled his old Ford pickup under the fluorescent lights, the neon open sign casting colorful reflections on the wet pavement. As a single father and construction foreman, Daniel had been working 16-hour days to save enough money for his 6-year-old son Jake's upcoming surgery, and tonight he was running on coffee and determination. Daniel had stopped for gas on his way home from his second job at the warehouse, bone-tired but grateful for any work that brought him closer to affording the medical procedure Jake needed. As he stepped out of his truck into the rain, he noticed a figure sitting alone under the gas station's covered area, hunched over and clearly in distress. Through the rain and dim light, Daniel could see it was a young woman, probably in her late 20s, wearing a light-colored dress that clung to her obviously pregnant form. Her blonde hair was wet from the storm, and her shoulders shook with what appeared to be silent crying. She sat on the concrete ledge as if she had nowhere else to go. Daniel hesitated for a moment, knowing he should probably mind his own business and get home to Jake. But something about the woman's posture, the way she held herself as if she was carrying the weight of the world, reminded him of his own darkest moments as a struggling single parent. After filling his tank, Daniel approached the woman slowly, not wanting to startle her. "Excuse me, miss," he said gently. "Are you all right? Do you need help with something?" The woman looked up, revealing tear-streaked cheeks and eyes that held a pain Daniel recognized all too well. Despite her obvious distress, he could see intelligence and strength in her features, qualities that made her current despair all the more heartbreaking. "I am sorry," she said, trying to compose herself. "I did not mean to bother anyone. I am just having the worst day of my life." Daniel knelt down so he could speak with her at eye level, rain dripping from his work clothes. "You are not bothering anyone. I am Daniel, and you look like someone who could use a friend right now." The woman studied his face, taking in the genuine concern in his eyes and the patient way he waited for her to respond. "I am Elena," she said finally, "and I think my problems are bigger than friendship can fix." Daniel settled onto the concrete beside her, ignoring the rain that was soaking through his shirt. "Elena, I have found that most problems look smaller when you share them with someone who cares. What has happened?" Elena looked at this stranger who was willing to sit in the rain to listen to her troubles, and felt something crack open in her chest. "Daniel, what would you do if you discovered that the person you loved most in the world had been lying to you? If everything you thought you knew about your life was false?" Daniel considered the question seriously, thinking about his own experiences with betrayal and disappointment. "I suppose I would try to figure out what was true and what was not, and then I would make decisions based on the truth instead of the lies." "But what if the truth means you lose everything?" Elena asked, her voice breaking. "What if it means starting over with nothing when you are about to have a baby?" Daniel felt his heart go out to this pregnant woman who was clearly facing a crisis that threatened to overwhelm her. "Elena, starting over is not the same as having nothing. You have your baby to think about now, and that means you have the most important thing in the world." Elena placed her hand protectively over her belly. "But what if I cannot provide for my baby? What if I have no idea how to build a life from scratch?" Daniel looked at this woman who was clearly intelligent and articulate but overwhelmed by circumstances beyond her control. "Can you tell me what happened?" Sometimes it helps to say it out loud. Over the next hour, as they sat together under the gas station lights while the rain continued to fall, Elena shared her story. She was the chief executive officer of a successful marketing firm that she had built from nothing over the past 7 years. But that afternoon, She had discovered that her business partner and fiancé had been systematically stealing from the company and planning to leave her once he had transferred enough assets to his personal accounts. I confronted him today, Elena explained, and he told me that he had never loved me, that our relationship was just a way for him to gain access to the company. He said I was naive for trusting him, and that no one would believe me if I tried to expose what he had done. Daniel felt anger rise in his chest at the thought of someone treating Elena with such cruelty, especially when she was pregnant and vulnerable. Elena, that man is a thief and a coward. Nothing he said about you is true. But how can I know what is true anymore? Elena asked. I built this company. I thought I was smart and successful, but I let someone rob me blind. Maybe I am naive. Daniel turned to face her directly. Elena, the fact that you trusted someone you loved does not make you naive. It makes you human. And the fact that you are sitting here worried about your baby and trying to figure out how to move forward tells me you are stronger than you realize. Elena looked at Daniel with surprise. You do not even know me. How can you be so sure? Daniel smiled, thinking about all the challenges he had faced raising Jake alone. Because I know what real strength looks like. It looks like sitting in the rain trying to figure out how to protect the people you love. It looks like refusing to give up even when everything seems hopeless. But what am I supposed to do now? Elena asked. I do not even know if I can go back to my own company. Daniel considered her situation, drawing on his practical experience with problem solving. Do you have access to financial records, bank statements, contracts, anything that shows where the money went? I have some access, but he handled most of the financial details, Elena admitted. That does not mean the evidence is not there, Daniel said. You just need the right help to find it and understand what it proves. Have you talked to a lawyer who specializes in business fraud? Elena shook her head. I was so shocked that I just left. I have been driving around all day trying to figure out what to do. Daniel looked at this accomplished woman who had built a successful business but was now feeling defeated. Elena, you are not defeated. You are just facing a challenge that requires different skills. But you can learn those skills, and you can find people who know how to handle situations like this. Over the following weeks, Daniel found himself becoming an unexpected source of support for Elena as she worked to rebuild her life and her business. His practical wisdom and unwavering belief in her abilities helped her find the courage to hire the right legal and financial experts to investigate the embezzlement. Elena discovered that Daniel had been right. The evidence of her former partner's theft was all there in the company records, and with proper legal representation, she was able to not only recover the stolen money, but also expose his crimes to the authorities. More importantly, Elena had found in Daniel something she had never experienced before, a relationship built on genuine care and respect rather than personal gain. Daniel's integrity and kindness had shown her what real love looked like. 6 months later, as Elena's pregnancy progressed and her business grew stronger than ever, she made Daniel an offer that would transform both their lives. Daniel, she said as they sat together in her office watching through the window as Jake played in the company's new childcare center. I want to offer you a position as Chief Operations Officer. Daniel stared at her in amazement. Elena, I am honored, but I am a construction foreman, not a corporate executive. Elena smiled, taking his hand. Daniel, you are someone who stopped in the rain to help a stranger in crisis. You are someone who believed in me when I'd stopped believing in myself. You have natural leadership skills and the ability to solve problems under pressure. Those are exactly the qualities I need in a business partner. And what about Jake? Daniel asked, thinking about his son's needs. Jake would have access to the best schools and healthcare, including the surgery he needs, Elena replied. But most importantly, he would have a family that loves him, including a baby brother or sister who is already excited to meet him, too. Years later, Daniel stood in the boardroom of Elena's company, now serving as chief operations officer of one of the most successful marketing firms in the region. But beyond professional success, he had found something he had never dared to hope for: a loving wife and a growing family that included Jake, baby Sophia, and another child on the way. At their wedding ceremony, held in the garden of their new home, Elena spoke about how a chance encounter at a gas station had taught her the difference between success and happiness. "I thought I had everything I wanted," Elena told their friends and family. "A successful business, financial security, a plan for the future. But I had never experienced unconditional love until I met a man who stopped to help a crying stranger without expecting anything in return." Daniel, holding Sophia in his arms while Jake stood proudly beside them as ring-bearer, reflected on how a simple decision to show kindness had transformed every aspect of his life. "I thought I was just trying to help someone who was having a terrible day," Daniel said in his speech. "I had no idea that I was meeting my future wife, my business partner, and the person who would show Jake and me what it means to be part of a real family," as they celebrated with the people who mattered most to them. Daniel remembered that rainy night when he had been worried about medical bills and overtime shifts. The woman crying at the gas station had seemed like someone who needed help, but she had turned out to be the person who would help him build a life more abundant than anything he had ever imagined. Sometimes, Daniel thought, the most important business meetings happen not in conference rooms, but under gas station lights in the rain, where strangers decide to care about each other's problems. Sometimes the greatest opportunities come disguised as someone else's crisis, and sometimes the richest rewards come from the simple decision to invest your compassion in another human being's pain. The rain that had brought them together that night had washed away their old lives and cleared the way for something beautiful and new, proving that sometimes the storms we think will destroy us actually water the seeds of our future happiness.